Okay, guys, so the next thing we're going to be looking at is our trial balance. But right before we get into our trial balance, there's something we need to do with our GL. Okay, so currently we've built a GL entry sheet that feeds into our GL table. Okay, now we want to make it possible for the user to go in there and look up a particular GL account, see the opening balance from a start date, and see a closing balance at the end date. See the various account details within that GL, and be able to see the breakdown or the details of the transaction in that GL. So I'm going to show you what I'm talking about in our demo app, and then you kind of have an understanding of what we want to build in this live app. So this is what I'm talking about. So over here, we have our GL detail sheet, or our sheet that allows us to look at the details of our GL. So we have an account selected, which is the bank account over here. We have a start date, we have an end date, we have the opening balance, we have the closing balance. Then we have the various detailed bank account. So the various bank accounts we have bank account A, bank account B, bank account C, and these are the closing balances of each bank account, right? And then these are the details. So when you take bank account A, from the start date of 1st January 2025, these are the transactions. So you can see the debit and credit in there, and you can see the balances, right? Then you go to bank account B, then you go to bank account C, right? Now, when we change the opening date, see most of them, this one started in January, this one started in also January, this one started in March. Let's just change the opening dates to somewhere, let's say March the 20th. Okay, and let's see what happens. First, you expect the opening balance to change. Okay, so the opening balance has changed, you see. So now, starting from 20th March, this is the opening balance, okay? The closing balance is still going to remain the same because we've not changed the closing balance date. Good. And then you see over here, this transaction wasn't filtered because it's still after the start date, right? Then this one has been filtered, okay? This one has also been filtered, okay? You can tell it's filtered because this is the first transaction, but this is the opening balance. It's 160,000, okay? Transactions have changed. Good. So when I change the account, I'm going to select another account. I want an account that has transactions in there. Let's select cash, for instance, okay? So it's going to run, it's syncing. Once it syncs, you see the opening balance in here, closing balance. Okay, this is the opening balance. Again, ideally, cash shouldn't have negatives, right? Okay, but this is just dummy data I created with AI. So yeah, this is what you get sometimes with AI. Anyway, so these are the transactions, and this is what we have over here. Good. So when you select each of these accounts, it also filters these transactions over here and zooms in, so you can just focus on what you want, right? You can also click on it and it zooms out. Good. So that's what we're going to do. So let's get on it. Okay, so to be able to create what we just saw, first we need to create the controls. Okay, good. Now this is going to be fairly simple because we already have a control sheet. So what we're going to do is go into that control sheet and add the columns we need. That's the start date and the end date. So we'll come here. Let me change this. Now click View Data Source. Good. I'll come to, let me move this guy here. Come to Control. Good. And then over here, I have transaction date, I have debit credit lines, I have script run date. It's very important you leave the script run date where it is because the script relies on column H to make any entry. So let's leave it there. We'll come here and we'll say start date and end date. Okay, so start date and end date. So each user is going to have their own start date and end date. Good. We'll come back to our app over here, and then we're just going to regenerate our control table. So come here, and then we'll regenerate. Good. So these two are dates, and that's what we have to do over here. Now we're going to go on to build that control sheet, okay? That allows us to select the dates and then select the account. Mentioning account, I just realized that we have to add another column, account. So we'll come here and then we'll add account or selected. Should I change it to selected account? Let's make it selected account. Good. So I'll come back here and regenerate this as well. Okay, so now we have start date, end date, and selected account. Selected account is going to be a ref, and it's going to be a ref of the main account. Good. Click done. Click save. So let's start from there. Let's use that as our guide. and then we'll build on. So we'll come here to view. We're going to create a ref view. Okay, just like that of the control. So it's going to be GL control. Okay, this one is going to come from the control table, or ideally you should take the user's control table because that's a specific to whoever has logged in. So users control table, and then we're going to use detail. Okay, so detail over here. You see this user has been over here, logged in over here. So that's his information. Good. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to clear these other columns that we don't need and take only the column we need. Okay, so we'll come here, manual, take out ID, transaction ID, entry date, all these columns, leave start date, end date, and selected account. I'll bring this on top, and I'll make all three editable. So selected date should be editable, start date should be editable, end date should be editable, like this. Good. So when I click here, I can select one of these, and then I can select a start date and then an end date. You see that? Fantastic. Good. So we have this in place. Now, once this is selected, what's supposed to happen is that we have to filter GL to that particular account, right? So we've selected medical supplies. We want only medical supplies. Good. So we'll come to our data, and at GL, we're going to create a slice. Click this plus, create a new slice. And I'll say selected GL lines. Good. Okay. Now the first condition is just going to be that the account selected. So account, but let's be very careful over here. You know, in the GL, right, we only have the account details. We don't have the main account. Okay, so let me go back here. In this GL account here, these accounts over here are the account details 201, 401, 202. Okay, they are coming from the COA details here, right? Good. But what we want is we want to filter this table, or we want to filter the GL. Where is it? We want to filter this GL by selecting one of the main accounts. Good. So what we're going to do is we're going to come to our app over here, cancel this for now, right? Come to GL, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add the main account, okay? So what I mean is this, I'm going to click on this plus and say the main account. I'm just going to use a ref and say account code main. So that will pull in for the main account. Good. And now that that is done, our selected GL can be filtered based on that selection. So I'll come here, create a condition, and that's simply going to say main account is equal to. Now we are selecting this from the user's control, right? So user control table, then what he selected under selected account. Good. Now the only problem is we are comparing an item, a text, to a list. Is that okay? Because this is a table and you selected a column. But because we know that there's only one item in that table, that's the user's record. There's no user has two records in that table. We can use any to select the user's selected account because the any selects any item in a list. But if there's only one item in the list, it's always going to select that item. Is that okay? We can either use any or we can use index, comma 1. When you do index and you put 1, it means you're selecting the first item in the list. When you do index 2, you're selecting the second item in the list. Yeah, but we're going to use any. This is much simpler. I'm going to click save. Save here. Good. So what that means is if I come here under views, I create a view and I say GL lines, or let's say selected GL. I'll probably have to use a better name later, but let's use that for now. Good. And then I'm going to create a table. Let's save this and see what happens. Okay, we have nothing in there. That's fine. I'm going to create a dashboard of the two for now, so it's easy for us to navigate. So GL, that's a GL. We already have GL, so what should we call this? Just a GL statement or something. And then I'm going to make this a dashboard. We have the GL control value. Okay, make this tall. And then I'm going to make selected GL large. Okay, good. Something like this. Okay, now let's change this to another account. Let's use bank account that has data in there. Good. So we select bank accounts. We have, sorry, let me save this. GL statement. Good. So you see, when I select bank account, I have one entry in there because in the bank account or in the GL, there's some entries for bank account over here. You can see this is a bank account. Good. So you know that's what I mean. You see, in the GL, there is no bank account over there. There's only bank A operating. Okay, so if you go and select bank account, it can't filter that unless you bring in this guy, main account. That will actually help you filter this data based on this guy. But this guy will just be a virtual column. It doesn't need to be in the spreadsheet. Okay, I hope this explanation helps. Okay, so I'm going to click here and then let's select another guy. I think I saw cash, a cash related account over there. Good. So this is a cash related account, which is a cash on hand front desk. Good. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to add more data into our spreadsheet. This data is going to be made available in the description. So you can just go into the folder and then you can just pick the data for GLs and just make sure it's filled into your GL table. Okay, so I'll come here. Okay, I'm going to stand here. I'm just going to override what entries I have over here with my GL. So I'm going to do this Control Shift V, paste this over here. All right, let's come back to our app and let's refresh our app. Good. So now we have something like this. Is that okay? Now what we want to do is we also want to allow the user to have a list of all the account details over there or the related cash accounts, basically. Okay, so just like how we have over here, where we have the related cash accounts, the user can just see at a glance what the total or the closing balances for each cash balance or each cash related account is. So come here, and then we're going to come to our data, come to COA details. Okay, we're going to create a slice for this as well. Create new slice. Okay, we're going to call this selected account details. Okay, good. Now let me close this up and then let me bring in my expression. So the expression we're going to be using is we just want to filter the account details where the main accounts equal to what has been selected by the user. So account code main is equal to, again, any, right? User, what's the table called? Is it control? Users control table, good. Then we'll say what? Selected account. Is that okay? So all those have been selected will pop up here. Let me save this. So we'll come here to views and then we'll create a view for this as well. So on the ref, I'm going to call this selected accounts. And then this is going to be, it could be a table or a card. I think I use a deck. I use a deck for this. And I selected, where are you? Good. Yeah, that's what we used. Okay, good. Now we have to take all the action buttons. We don't need those. So I'll scroll down here, take this off, and then I'll move this guy for now. Great. So we have something like this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add this view to our dashboard that we created here. So we'll come here and then add this to selected account here. Should be the second. Should be the second. Make this also tall. right? And let's save this. So open this like this, great. So now if I change this to, let's say, bank, great. So we have our bank transactions over here. Good. We have our accounts over here. We have our start date and end date over here. When I select this, I'm not getting what I want. I want to be able to select that and then it zooms in instead of giving me the details. So how do we do this? So simple. In the dashboard view, that's a GL statement view, right? We're going to enable this interactive mode. So enabled, save. So when I click this, good. Let me open it in the desktop mode so you could see it well. GL statement, great. So when I select this, and I select that, and I select this. We'll check this, and then we have our form. Now what we want to do is we want to sort of group these transactions. Okay, there are a number of things we'll do, but let's first group it and take out the unnecessary bits. So I'll come here, come to GL selected lines, put this in mobile again. Okay, now take off ID, take off transaction ID. We don't need those. Entry date is not needed. Transaction date is needed. Description is also very important. The accounts will be the grouping. So let me group by accounts. Right. So once I'm grouping by account, I don't need account showing again. Okay, debit and credit is very important. Type of the account is not important. Credit, net debit, credit is not important. Statement is not important. Main account is not important. Good. So we have something like this. Let's save this. Let's see how it looks here. Okay. Neat. So now we have something much more presentable. Choose cash. Right here, great. Let me have this. Okay, nice. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do at this point, right, is we're going to make sure that we have our balance showing. Okay, so what's the balance? What's the closing balance? What's the opening balance? Good. That calculation is going to be very important because it's also going to show the balance of the account you selected in total. It's going to show the balance over here as well. Okay, so let's get that done. So let's come over here. Now, to determine the balance, we need to first determine the net amount. Is that okay? So if you have debits, you have credits, what's the net? Right? Remember we did a net debit, net credit. That's going to be very useful for us. Okay, because that calculation has already, for every account, done the netting off in its original debit side or credit side. Is that okay? So all we need to do is sort of net it off. So let me just explain this. I'm going to bring back these two accounts, net debit and net credit, so you kind of have a visual understanding of what I'm trying to execute here. Let me refresh this. Now look at this. So you see this is cash, right? Now you take cash on hand, Fundex. You have debit of 5,000, debit of 650, credit of this amount. Okay. So what the net debit is doing right now is it's just giving you the net of each transaction. So you have 5,650 minus 15,243 because this is credit. So all you need to do is now sum up this column. Okay, so it makes life very simple for you. So we're going to create one column that sums net debit and credit, and then we can sum that column up. Okay, so we're going to come here, come to GL. Okay, I'm going to click a column called amount. I'm going to say, okay, this column is basically going to be net debit plus net credit. Because at every point in time, one of these columns is going to be 0. I mean, I'm basically just taking one of them at every point in time. Okay, good. So amount is giving us the net of that. Good. So balance, okay, is just going to be the sum at either the start date or the end date. But we need to bring our start date, end date factor into the element where we're going to filter the selected GL by that start date and end date, and then we can do the summing. Okay, so we'll come here to selected GL. And then we're going to put an expression that allows us to filter this GL based on the start date and the end date. So it's just going to basically be the same formula like this. What we're going to do is say and, okay, and then we're going to say transaction date, right, of the GL must be greater than or equal to any user's control start date. Do you see? Right, I'm going to pick this formula. So that's for start date. And then it has to be also less than or equal to end date. I'll close this. So that's the expression, okay? So one, it has to be equal to the account, and then it has to be greater than or equal to start date, and then less than or equal to end date. So let's see if that works. Click save, save this. Let's come here, accounts. Good. So I'll come here and then I'll go to January 1st. Let's filter this and see what happens. Good. So this is giving us transaction from January 1st to 5th September. Okay. This is a transaction. I select petty cash, select cash, like that. If I filter this to, let's say, April, I don't expect any transactions before April to show in here. So we filter the selected account, which is very important. Now let's sort this before I forget. So I'll come here, views, sort by transaction dates. Where are you transaction dates? Good. So, okay, so we've done that. Now what we need to do is to run the calculation that gives us the closing balance, and then it also gives us the opening balance as well. Okay, so in the GL, once we create amount, we can now create the balance. Balance, good. And the balance is going to be a summation of the amount column. I'm going to say sum. Now I'm going to select, okay, GL, amount, okay, where, now this is very important, condition, okay, and then a number of conditions we need to take into consideration. The first condition is that the account must be equal to this row dot account. That's a given. Okay, we're going to sum all the amounts for bank. So we need to select bank, right? Second one is that when we are summing the amount for the balance, we are summing every transaction that happened on the same day of that transaction and before. Is that okay? That's how we get the balance, right? Good. So we see transaction date is equal to this row dot transaction date. Good. Now, in order to not to have duplicates for the same day, so if maybe on the same day you have 3 transactions, okay, because you did less than or equal to, transaction day should be less than or equal to. Because we are doing less than or equal to, we want to make sure each day, at every point in time, there's a different balance. We're going to also say that the row number should be less than or equal to this row's number. So we're going to say row number is going to be less than or equal to this row dot row number. Okay, so these are the 3 conditions we're looking at. No, there shouldn't be an and over here. So this, that, and that. Good. So I'm going to save this. Click done. Okay, so if I preview this, I don't know how it's going to look like, but let's preview it and see. Okay, so amount, I think I haven't saved. So let's save this. So this is 10,000. We're just going to see how it looks like. So let's click here, preview data. Good. So amount here, 10,000, balance is 10,000, 5,000, 5,000. Because these are not related accounts. If you get another related account, good. So if you see over here, you had 5,000, the balance was 5,000. And then here I had a negative 5,000 for the same account. So the balance goes to what? To 0. Great. Now that we have this, we can go ahead and now create our opening balance and closing balance for each detail account. Okay, so over here in the detail sheet, the opening and closing balances we want to calculate, right? It's not for all the accounts. It's just for the selected accounts. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a smaller table that's for only the selected accounts. What I mean is, you see over here, we have related GLs. That relates to all the GL. But let's also create another column that relates to just the selected GL lines. Okay, now to do this, we'll come here and just copy this formula. Click Save. Click on this Add Virtual Column. And we'll say Related Selected GLs. Okay, this trick is a very useful trick. You come here and you change this from GL to selected GL lines. Okay, good. So this allows you to just zoom into that smaller selection. So let's save this. Okay, done. Good. Now, to be able to calculate the opening balance, okay, you need to appreciate the relationship between the amount and the balance column. Okay, so I'll come back here to views, okay, and I selected GL. Okay, make sure after debit and credit I have amount, and then bring after this I'll select balance. Okay, click save. Let's come here. Good. All right, so we have this. Right? Now you see the very first transaction, you had amount of 650, balance of 650. Second one, you had minus 15,243, and then you had a balance of what? 14,593. Good. The next one is 148 and then 16.05. So basically this amount was added to this and you got this, or this was less from this and you got this, right? That's how you got 16.05. Okay. Now, when there's a cutoff, so let's say there's a cutoff like this. Okay. In the selected table, right, we do not have the prior opening balance. So we can't tell what the balance for just before this transaction was. But what we can do is, and because we understand the relationship between balance and account, we know that the opening balance was, which is X, right? In this case, we don't know it, so it's X. X plus this gave us this. Is that okay? X amount, whatever it was, plus this gave us this. So if you want to find this X, what we need to do is we need to subtract this amount from the balance. Okay, so we're going to get minus 14,593 minus this amount. Okay, where's my calculator? Well, let's go to my spreadsheet. So minus 14,593. So minus this. Good. So what? 650. Do you get it? So if I undo this, so let's go back to 1st January. 650. Do you get it? So the opening balance is what? 650. Let me delete this guy. So do you understand? Right. So we're just going to write a formula that is going to do the same thing. So we'll come here. Okay, and the account, we're going to say opening balance. Okay, and then the opening balance is going to be the very first balance minus the very first account in the selected table. So index, remember I told you index is used for selecting values in a list based on a position. So we're going to say related selected GL balance, okay, 1 minus index again, related selected GLs amount, 1. Okay, so this is going to give us the opening balance for each of them. Click save, click done. Good. Now the closing balance is a bit easier, right? We're just picking the very last value in the table. Okay, so class, say closing balance. Okay, so the closing balance is going to be index again. Okay, they're going to say related selected GLs, the balance. Okay, for me, the way I pick the last value is I'm just going to count this list again. Okay, so if I count it, it's just going to give me the number, and then it's going to pick that value in that number. That's what I do. If there's any other way you also do it, please let me know. I want to learn. Right, good. I'm going to click save. Okay, so we have this in place. Now, let's see if we can bring this into our app. Let's come to views. Okay, so first we're going to come to selected accounts, and then over here under summary column, we're going to say give us a closing balances. So the closing balances show over here. Okay, that's step number one. Number two is what we're going to do is now we're going to sum it up. Okay, we need to sum everything up. The total opening balance and sum the total closing balance. Do you get it? So that it will show under the controls section. Okay, so we'll come here to control. Okay, we're going to the control table actually. So come to control table. And when you click plus, I'm going to say opening balance. Good. So the opening balance is going to be a sum. I'm going to say selected account details, right? We're going to sum the opening balances. I'm going to copy this, click save, click done, and I'm going to do the same thing for closing balance. Put this here, paste this, and then change this to closing balance. And save this as well. Click done, click save. All right, so we have this in place. Now let's come to our view. Okay, under general GL control, we want to add two more fields. So after this, we want to add opening and closing balance like this. And I'm going to save this. So let's come to our app over here. GL statement. Good. So we have cash, we have start balance, start date, end date, opening balance, closing balance, which should be a sum of all these. And we have this, we have debit credit, we have amount and balance. We don't need amount anymore. It's just a helper field. So I'll come to selected GL, take amount out. That was just to explain to you the relationship. Okay. Okay. Good, good, good. This is looking nice. It's looking nice. Okay, so if I change this to, I want another account that has something, let's say trade receivables, trade payables. It's running good. Okay, okay. This is here, this opening balance. Good. If I select this, okay, so this doesn't change, right? Because you just selected this. Right, good, good. It's working. I like it. Okay, let's undo the selection. Let's select, let's say this. Okay, and filters. Nice. All right. So that is how we've created our view that allows us to select and zoom into a particular account and then see the details of the account. The next one we're going to do is we're going to look at our trial balance. Okay, so let's get to that.